Number 61760, grade 1, 7 carats. Stunning rough opal from Lightning Ridge. It's a little knobby here. Alright, so question and answer for today is kind of a follow-up from yesterday about how to know when to stop cutting. And this one says, Dear Frogs, I follow your technique about cutting cylinders before doping, but how then do you deal with the gray spots that are small but in the middle of an otherwise perfect stone? Thanks, old boy in the desert. Alright, so yeah, so this is a little bit more complicated in kind of an intermediate to advanced answer, but I've never seen anybody cover this really online, so I'm going to teach you guys how to do this. There are two different methods. One of them is when you're dealing with kind of a clearish stone, you know, like a gray spot in a clearish stone, and the other method is whenever you're dealing with a spot that's in a stone that's totally obscured, right? And so you can only see the spot and you can't see anything else in the stone because it's not a crystal or it's a really dark based crystal. So let's imagine that this is a stone, right? So this is your stone on the inside, and for the sake of this explanation, we'll take a piece of potch, and that'll be the gray spot in your stone, right? So oftentimes it'll be something like this, right? So a stone here, and then a gray spot that's floating in the stone, right? So the first example here is for a crystal stone or something that's mostly translucent. If you have a gem light, you can shine that gem light directly over the gray spot in your stone and then shift the light back and forth like this, right? And if that stone is floating above the baseline where the opal, the precious opal, meets the potch, then you'll see, if you look really closely, a shadow, right? The shadow that's caused by the light going across the edge of the top of that potch or gray matter on the base of the crystal where the crystal meets the potch. You can see that shadow if you pay really close attention. And if you shift that light to the left and to the right, you'll see that shadow get longer and shorter as you shift. Now, if that gray spot is actually sitting right on the bottom of that layer, and this is the layer where the clear opal meets the potch down below, and you shift that light, you won't see that shadow change at all. It'll be static. It won't move as you move the light across. That shadow won't move, right? So if the shadow doesn't move, then it's likely that gray spot actually goes down to the bottom, and you can cut it out and you're going to destroy your stone because it won't come out. As soon as it comes out, you hit the layer where there's no more precious opal, and this is where your color is, right? Alright, so that is that's the one way to do it that I've never heard before, but it works. If you really look closely, you can see that shadow, and you can see whether it moves or not, and by how much it moves, you can tell how much space is left underneath. Alright, if you can't see it, there is another way to do it, and this is a real advanced technique, and it's hard to get used to. You have to cut a lot of opal in order to really get this one down, but I call it playing chicken. So if you've cut your stone into a cylinder, like I said, you know, in yesterday's video, and this is floating in there, what you can do is you can touch this to your wheel, and if you pay really close attention as you touch it again and again, this thing will change size, right? So you have to have two things in your mind at once. You have to have how much stone you have left, how much precious opal you have left. So maybe this is 5 seconds on the wheel. If I grind this for 5 seconds, my precious opal is gone. And if I can see the profile on the side of the wheel perfectly, then I know that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds and my precious opal is gone, because I'm going to bottom out and this is where the potch starts, right? And so right here at about 2 seconds, I'm going to start hitting that gray spot, right? And so I know that I've got about 2 or 3 seconds left on the wheel. I'll change off of my my heavy wheel. I'll probably go to like a 600 at this point, or maybe even a 1500 if it's really precious and I just don't want to grind it away. And I'll touch it to the wheel, pay really, really close attention to whether that spot shrinks just a little bit, really, really small amount, or it stays the same. If it shrinks just a little bit, and I know that I've got 2 seconds left, I'll hit it again. And if it shrinks a little bit more, and I know that I've got, 1 second left, I'll hit it again for half a second. And then, if I get down there, then you gotta call it. You're gonna say either it bottoms out or it doesn't. And usually, if you get down to, where there's a half a second left here, then it's not gonna go away, and you leave the spot in the stone. That's what I call, like playing chicken with a spot. And and if you have those two metrics in your mind and you manage them at the same time when you're cutting, the how much time do I have left versus the is the spot shrinking, is it growing, is anything happening to the size of it, right? And so generally what you want to see is that spot will start shrinking as you start getting closer, right? And that's what you want to see. If it starts shrinking, then there's a chance that it'll disappear before you bottom out. That's what you're hoping for. If it doesn't start shrinking, then it's usually just better to keep a dome on the stone and just call it. Alright, so I hope those tips help. That's the only two ways that I know that you can deal with understanding a spot in the stone and whether you can take it out or whether you can't take it out. Every month we run more than 1,000 no reserve auctions all across the Opal Auctions platform out of our shop, 53Frogs. But they're not all in the no reserve section, so the best way to see them all is to click the link right here at the end of the video.